Well, welcome back to Between Two Wheels podcast. This is episode 83. Tyler Janke coming to you with Chris Flower, Curt Mills, and just our wit. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. It's been a while.
It has, yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Happy to do it.
Any bike-related activities you've been doing lately?
Riding my bike.
How about that? So we have some, and Curt, how you doing?
Good. I'm doing great.
Let's join you all in, and then let's talk a little bit. So we have some fires around here in Northern California, and the air quality is like 1990s LA. It's pretty bad. You about died on Sunday from that. You doing okay? Emphysema? Anything setting in?
That was pretty bad. That was the first time I've ever felt really sick from air quality, and it hit pretty hard. So I feel better now. I had to take a nap for like 2 hours, and then
taking a nap.
Yeah. I woke up and I felt a lot better, but yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, it was rough. We did a big ride out by your place, which is in Nevada City area, and the fires are out there in Redding and the whole Northern California. So it's pretty nasty. Do you think, it was a little not as hot, but it was
still plenty warm.
It was warm, but it was really muggy.
Yeah,
definitely. Do you think that was fire retardant related? I don't know. Like no clouds, just fire in the skies or smoke?
I'm not sure what the atmospheric conditions that were related to it,
but
it definitely felt muggier than usual.
Yeah,
it really did.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's all that pot growing up there. What happens is, do you ever see History of the World Part 1 or 2? Okay, so there's a scene in there where they're following Gregory Hines, and he sees he's being chased by the Greeks or something like this. So he pulls over his chair. He sees some weed, so he lights this big blunt and starts. You think that would happen up there in Nevada City if there was a wildfire, that everyone would just be like contact high?
Yes, without a doubt.
All right. Shall we get to it? This is the
Sure.
Tour de France just ended. We are going to recap the Tour de France. We're going to do a little bit about the U.S. Crit Series that just happened. Maybe talk about some things coming up. So what did you think about the Tour in general? And kind of what were your highlight stages? We'll start with you, Chris.
I enjoyed it. I think when we last talked, I said I was going to boycott it for a variety of reasons, but I ended up tuning in and watching it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think the more entertaining stages were a couple of the later mountain stages, just because there was, the race was coming to an end. Some guys were still kind of in contention and had an opportunity to really kind of make their last move to either take over Thomas's yellow jersey or kind of ensure their spot on the podium. So it was cool to see Roglic in stage 19 make his big effort, and then even the time trial was kind of exciting because Dumoulin had an opportunity to do what he does best and kind of take the win there. Yeah,
it was still holding out hope. I mean, that was kind of the deal. We've kind of talked about. I've been watching because I'm kind of tour lax here, or in the missing them. I've been watching some of the old tours where these guys are pulling out minutes. Indurain goes in. Well, plus they were doing like 60K time trials, multiple of those. So he blows everyone out by 2-3 minutes. The suspense is gone.
Yeah. We've both been watching old tours. I don't know why. I was thinking about that a little bit, like how it'd be interesting to do a couple of long time trials in the first week to force the climbers to sort of chase later on in the tour. It seems like that's maybe that wasn't completely the setup in some of the tours we watched, but there were bigger gaps and the climbers were having to close those down later. When you do those time trials in the last week, like everybody's already out of it, and it's just the climbers that are are the GC contenders that are really riding hard anyways. I don't know. It'd be interesting to kind of go back and set those the series of stages up maybe a little bit differently.
What did you think of the tour? Did you enjoy it as well? I mean, I know we talked a lot about it.
Yeah, I think my favorite stage was Alpe d'Huez. So I thought that was...
Because you're a big Thomas. You liked the back-to-back win?
The big sprint, powerful finish.
I wasn't a big fan of that, but there were other highlights on that stage that I thought were great.
He's not a Nibali fan.
I was disappointed about Nibali, but he only lost 13 seconds on that stage with a broken vertebrae. Yeah. Is that right? So that's still impressive.
Very.
Yeah, it was a good tour. Not bad.
Why don't we go back and just talk a few things about the first week, middle week, and last. So there's some easy things to hit. First of all, going in the team time trial, you didn't see big groups, time gaps necessarily to the winners. What did you watch the team time trial, and what did you think of the battle there for the win with the BMC and not giving TJ the overall?
I'll have to pass that to Chris because the first week I was kind of boycotting.
Similar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't tune in until things got interesting.
Okay, so what about
when
did you watch stage 9 with the? We'll just cut this out. Did you watch? By the way, the Tour de France is 3 weeks. It's not just 2. It may seem a little week-like, but
I know. I was trying to stay away from it though because I was disappointed with.
Tell me why you're disappointed. I think that's part of the story because you obviously knew something. I mean, we just disappointed in. Hey, it's July. I don't want to watch this. I'm watching the British Open or the Open instead, or Wimbledon, or.
We were watching the British Open.
Open.
I think there was. You just assumed you knew the winner prior, and there was the UCI that finally cleared Froome like days before the start of the tour. I don't know. It just left a bad taste in my mouth the way that whole thing went down. So I tried to stay away. I stayed away for 6 or 7 days and then got drawn back in. So that's what happened.
Pulls back in. So did you see stage 9, which is the cobblestone stage?
Yeah, I saw that stage, and I did kind of catch the end of some of the earlier sprint stages just to see how it shook out, and it was I guess it was Gaviria's opportunity to shine, and he took full advantage. But stage 9 was really cool. I enjoyed that one.
It was interesting to see Gaviria comes out, and it's always, you watch some of the commentators, and the guy wins one stage by pretty good margin, and then he's going to pull a Kittel. He's going to win the next 10 stages straight here. He wins another one. Oh, we're never going to see another sprinter win. And then all of a sudden you get Sagan start winning. Then you get Groenewegen start winning. Anyway, then we have the cobbles, and Richie Porte goes down, goes out of the Tour.
It was before the cobbles, right?
Before the cobbles, but on that stage. What'd you think of you saw a lot of those guys, Barguil, Thomas, all these ones that really, I mean, they still were up there in contention. So what do you think of having the cobbles as part of this whole Tour? And, Mitchelton Scott was very much against it from the start. But Adam Yates, that wasn't why he lost the Tour.
Right. Yeah. As a fan, I enjoy it because it adds a cool element to the race. Most of the rider feedback, aside from the guys who are avid cobble riders, I think would prefer to see it not come back just because it's, by all accounts, pretty painful. And it also adds kind of a level of uncertainty where things are taken out of their control. So, it looks like it's easy to crash. Quite a few guys crash there. It looks like it's easy to flat, get a mechanical that could take you out or cost you a lot of energy to stay in the group. So as a fan, I enjoyed it because it is a cool aspect of racing, and I like the guys that seem to do really well in those races.
Curt?
Yeah, it's a tough one. There weren't any big surprises that came out of that. It seems like all the GC contenders obviously survived and did okay, so we didn't have to deal with the consequences of it. It was fun to watch. It seemed like the big cobble riders maybe toned it back a little bit for their GC counterparts, so maybe it wasn't quite like the Spring Classics, but it was a fun spectacle to watch for a day, and I had people who weren't cycling fans mention watching that stage and how neat it was, so it's probably good for the support no matter what.
Iran, I think he ended up dropping out due to his crash that day, so that did take him out, but I mean Richie Porte, I mean, he
was already struggling, wasn't he?
Who, Iran?
Yeah.
No, he had come off a little bit on the Mira Britannia when stage 6 when Dan Martin had won. He lost just a small handful of seconds.
Okay.
So we don't know because Froome lost some handful of seconds that day as well. So you never know on those short punchy things how that really plays into it. And then Richie Porte, I mean, I imagine it was the tension of that day is what caused that wreck. But even then, I mean, it's someone made the comment of, hey, these guys they're legit bike riders, right? I mean, to be GC guy, think of the descents that they take that we see in the Tour that are pretty hot. I mean, they're flying down these things, except for maybe Zakarin. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
So, why not do a good ride on the cobbles? Make them. I mean, they're gonna handle it. So
it was fun to watch.
Yeah. Then we go into the mountains, and then we have this parts over in the Alps, and we're going to get some weird stages. So we have those 2 short stages. First, we have the 100K one, and then we had the 60K one with the grid start. And Alpe d'Huez. You mentioned that one. I like that one too for the fact that Kruijswijk takes off, multiple climbs ahead, kind of makes Sky chase him down, and he still holds on. Loses, 4.5 minutes up the climb, still kind of hangs on for that. Nibali. You guys both looked at the videos of the Nibali thing. What'd you think of the fans on the road and Nibali going down? I mean, because it changed the race. I think he always comes strong in the third week.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate. I don't think it's, people are saying it's something new that the fans have gotten crazier. I mean, a camera strap, we've seen it before, obviously, 2003 being the most famous, but I think that sort of thing just happens. That's the way cycling works. The reason I like that stage is Froome lost time. That was the first time we really saw like a big crack where he wasn't able to go with a move, and it wasn't just a handful of seconds. I think he lost like 40 plus.
No, he was with the finish at the end, but he had to claw his way back.
Yeah, I think it was. He definitely finished with the group there.
Oh shoot!
Because this is the one where
but he had trouble, and Dumoulin of course paces him back up. But at one point you see Geraint Thomas pacing him back up as well. It was the day before when I think Thomas goes up with Roglic and Dumoulin the day before, and he loses a little bit of time.
Maybe it was the sprint Geraint Thomas unleashed on the top on Alpe d'Huez that made me
really
realize he was the team GC guy that day, because that was impressive.
Yeah, that was definitely
all right, that's
impressive.
What I remember.
But it seemed like the guys, what was it, Dumoulin, Thomas, and Froome, they were kind of playing a little cat and mouse as they were coming into the finish, because I think Landa had been dropped and he caught back on. Nibali fractured his vertebrae, and he caught back on to be there in the finish. So it was
right as they're connecting, that's when they start kind of like jumping off the front again before that left-hand corner.
Yeah. It was a good stage. I think the Nibali incident was definitely not for the good of the race. It seemed like that happened in an area on the course where it was barricaded, but it looked like everything was really narrow through there. So with the motos being in the area, he had no real choice other than to go up against the barriers, and
not to mention the flares.
And the flares, that doesn't help with visibility.
Didn't the fans just hop the barricades?
I don't think so.
I think in some spots they were on the other side of they were inside of the barricades.
Okay, maybe that
Well,
contributed.
what was interesting, I heard two different podcasts that were on Dutch Corner, and they went down there and there were barricades on Dutch Corner. But they said what's interesting was the corner right above and below, there's no barricades. So they were like racially profiling the Dutch, right? Because they're going to be the problem. And they said, actually, when you watch the film on that corner, they're fine because they're back. But then if there were barricades or people, where that spot was, it was just unruly fans getting in the way.
Yeah.
Drunken mishaps.
Right.
But, watching these old tours, I mean, things like this happen. I mean, it's not a brand new thing. You should watch, I think it's Stars and Water Carriers. It's a 70s film of Merckx doing the Giro, and those crowds are insane up those climbs. Oh, Siaster, back in 90, I'm trying to remember when Chiapucci was attacking up there. The crowds are just, I mean, no one gets hurt, but it's amazing.
So going back to this tour and how I felt about it. So having watched the Vuelta and the Giro for a number of years now, it does feel like those are more epic Grand Tours. Like there's more mountaintop finish. There weren't a lot of mountaintop finishes for this in this tour, so that was kind of disappointing. So in that regard, it feels like we get more bang for our buck out of the 3 weeks of the other two, smaller step sisters of the tour. So
more exciting racing for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the climbs over there are steeper. So the Angliru, the Zoncolan, and these kind of things where they're ridiculous, and we didn't really have super ridiculous. Well, I shouldn't say that because I'm not doing it, but they're not the same type of climbs. So which maybe make a deal.
Right.
Anyway, so we get the second week. We have those transition stages. That one finish up to the Mendy, the airfield, where you have Omar Fraley who ends up winning that, and then you have 20 minutes later the field comes through, which I thought was a pretty exciting way to watch a race. Okay, now let's watch the GC race. I almost felt like Roglic should have posted up on that one as well. He did a lot of work, and then he came back to kind of haunt him in the end. What did you think of Enel Lotto Jumbo this year?
Well, obviously they got a strong team to have a couple of guys who can place well and race. It seemed like they were in a lot of the big moments, especially Kruijswijk. The last few days they're helping Roglic out. So, it's good to see. They're going to be an interesting team for the next few years, especially with what might or might not happen to Sky and everything else. So,
and they got a lot of youth on their side, which is nice
for sure.
Yeah. Tolhoek was up there for him with those two guys for a while.
Right.
Hessink was up there, and then you've got two Americans, which are climber guys, Sepp Kuss and Nelson Palace. You never know where that team.
They got two stage wins too, right?
Yeah, Groenewegen.
Yeah.
Well, Groenewegen had two, right?
Yeah.
So they had three because Roglic won stage 19.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a tour for them.
It's a really good tour. And I actually heard their DS talking about next year maybe pulling the Mitchelton, and we can talk about Caleb Ewing pulling the thing, saying maybe we don't bring Groenewegen. We have a tough decision because we basically have one of the best sprinters in the world, and do you pack it in for to make sure your team's doing good in GC? So what do you think about the Mitchelton Scott idea? And then it flops entirely with Adam Yates not being able to do much. They don't get a stage win, and they leave Caleb Ewing at home, especially when some of these sprinters are getting jettisoned out of the race.
Yeah, it definitely flopped just because the likelihood of Ewan having won any of the stages, I don't put as very high. But it would just been good to have...
Say it again. You don't think he would have won?
I don't think so.
Really?
No. Between Quickstep's lead out, between Groenewegen's power, and even on the punchier step, having to contend with Sagan, I just don't think he would have won. I think he would have been right up there in the mix. I just don't think he would have won any of the stages. But at the very least, they'd have their name in there and have some mentions. I mean, they were just, once Yates came out of the picture, they were just absent.
Well, Nieve was, 200 meters from winning?
That's true. And then Thomas unleashed another sprint.
And then Adam Yates got second or third. Was that to... I'm trying to remember which stage it was.
That was Alaphilippe where he had
Right.
crashed.
That's right.
That was a good opportunity for them to get their one stage win and kind of get something out of the tour, and it was unfortunate to see him go down.
I think Ewing would have done well because it seemed a chaotic sprint atmosphere this year, where you had Quickstep doing everything, and then everything was they were the one team doing some work, and then everyone else was like surfing. And I think Caleb's really good at that, getting in the mix in the right spots, and so he might. We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
But what do you think of
them leaving Caleb Ewing?
Yeah, and just in their tour in general.
Well, it was a big disappointment, right? Like nothing went well.
Maybe you think it's a great deal. They came out of it just well.
I don't know. I was going to tie it back into the NCNCA. I was just thinking about Caleb Ewing's sprint. It's a little bit like that Robert Skinner attack position, the Skinner snake that's been
I didn't know
famous.
the snake came into I haven't heard that
Chris, are you with me on this?
I'll agree.
I totally know what
very,
you're talking
very
about.
low.
Yeah.
And no, I was sorry. That's what I was daydreaming
We've
about.
seen that years ago when he had a camera on his bike and he's sprinting and you keep seeing his head.
Who?
Caleb Ewing.
Okay, yes.
He has a camera on the front of his bike and it's showing him sprinting. All of a sudden his head's peeking over, looking at the camera, and then it's back up. And
well, yeah, everybody does that.
His is really pronounced.
I can imagine.
As your
position is nuts. But
yeah. What about Movistar and their tour? A lot of the same tactics. I'm going to send a guy up the road. We have a 3-prong attack. Yeah. I'm going to send a guy up the road, and then we're going to fail miserably, except for the Quintana, I guess, day.
Yeah, that has not worked out for them.
No, it hasn't. How far out of contention was Quintana when he went up the road on that stage? He was well outside of contention.
Obviously, they let him go,
right?
But he got to maybe he got a minute 30, and then they kind of pulled it back to a minute, and then it kind of stabilized at that minute, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, what else do you do? Do you go all in on Landa? He didn't really impress too much in this tour.
Yeah, that was surprising. I thought he would have had a stronger tour.
I did too. He did have that crash early on. I don't know if that really hampered his efforts, but
was that on the cobble stage?
I don't think so.
Landa? Yeah, he went down on, I believe, the cobbles as well.
Was it the cobbles? It wasn't in a cobble situation. It looked like he was just
really early,
taking a drink of water.
Yeah. It was really early in the stage.
That's exactly right. And it was a tarmac section.
Yeah.
And he just head planted.
Right. It had nothing to do with cobbles.
It could have been the nerves of the day.
Oh, yes.
So Quintana was 4:23 going back into the stage 17, I think, or 16, whatever the one he won.
Yeah.
So they gave him some leeway, obviously. Right. And then I guess he hurt himself the next day or that day, and then he kind of just bailed out. So
I think it was the next day when he got.
He hurt his hand after the stage on the barrier somehow. Speaking of which, let's talk about the fans and wait. I'm sorry. Do you want to go?
No, go ahead. We've talked about the fans, but go on.
Well, Brailsford, and I think it was on that day as well that when Quintana won, that it showed that Thomas is coming over up and he's breaking away a little bit, and he's kind of on the barriers. Some AG2R fan in a jersey, I'm assuming it's reaches over, and it's more than hey, I'm just patting this guy. It's like he's trying to grab him. If you see the actual video or photo sequence of it, I mean, it jerks Thomas's arm a little bit.
That's one guy.
But can't you infer that the whole country of France on the actions of one person? Isn't that what we do here in the States?
I can't. But that was a good way to take the attention off of Moscon punching the guy the day before, I believe.
Right. Moscon, yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite was, so Brailsford comes out on the rest day, and they're talking about Moscon because he had just been ejected. You're a few hundred meters into the race and you're going to throw a bottle at it or try to hit a guy. And it was a bad hit, by the way. I mean, it didn't look you could do so much better. He's got to talk to some of those sprinters. They know how to hit people. Anyway, Brailsford comes out and he's like, Johnny Moscon did this.
But what was it about? Why did he punch the guy?
I think he was upset that certain people were trying to get in the break, or the guy he was swinging at was trying to launch somebody into the break, and Moscon didn't want him in the break, and the guy was continuing to try it.
Right, and the point is it was before the first K.
Right.
So that's a long day to really be worked up that early about it.
Right.
So anyway, Brailsford comes out and says, it's undignified, blah, blah, blah. We're disappointed. He's disappointed, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, now let's go over to the fans abusing us. And Sky has done nothing but be dignified in this tour, which I thought was a funny juxtaposition from what he just said about his own guy. So,
well, that one guy doesn't represent the whole team.
Well, you got a point. He doesn't.
I'm surprised Brailsford's still around.
As am I, yeah.
Yeah, he does seem to be a little out of touch at times with everything.
Yeah, so not surprising that he would say that. Unfortunate. I don't blame the fans. I mean, the fans are excited to be at a bike race, right?
Well, yeah, but you can't go grabbing the guy.
Okay,
or spitting.
Right. Obviously, there's limits. But if you go back and you watch old tours, this is nothing new. Things haven't gotten worse or better.
Right.
I was watching one last night, and there's Pantani's going for the win, and he's got a minute or something on everybody else, so he's pretty confident he's going to win. He's probably zipping up his jersey or something, and all of a sudden some guy jumps onto a bike in a Mape kit. Is that right?
Sure.
And is chasing him and making up ground really, really quickly. And you're like, holy cow! Where did this guy come from? And then all of a sudden you see the moto start to grab the guy and pull him off his bike. So crazy weird stuff has been happening forever, and there's no way to stop it. It's an open mountain road.
Totally get it.
Open road.
You know what I've thought about many times though? We have the Tour of California coming here, or Utah, and we've had Tour of California comes here and they're going over through Napa. And I remember a buddy Nate putting on Barat in his underwear type of thing, running up the climbs, and it's embarrassing. No offense, Nate, but that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
But you see some of these people and they're getting in the way of the guy with the horns next to the riders, and I'm embarrassed for my country in a sense. I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna take down one of these riders. Come on, you invite these riders here, and so I have this sense of this behave. I don't want to be that country that looks like an idiot. What do you think it is over there? I mean, do they have that? Should you just say, since you've been doing this from ad infinitum, you should be able to always just throw urine on the riders and punch them in the kidneys, or should we expect a little bit more out of them?
Out of who?
Hey, they're checking passports, they said.
He had an
there's people
from
on.
all over the world that come to this race. You can't blame the French. I mean, people travel from everywhere.
I just got it. So we could go over there, act like idiots, and we would be just wear an AGTR jersey.
Yeah. You would go over there and purposefully, you would have a baguette in your back pocket and trying to.
Right.
Total troll.
I'd be doing the Marcel the in the box
right.
miming. Yeah. All right, well, whatever.
I think it's fine. Like Curt said, the fans are the fans. It's crazy that people got so bent out of shape about booing in this tour. It's you're professional athletes. You're going to get booed. It happens in every sport. If anything, it just means you've kind of transcended into a new level of fan hatred, which is not a bad thing.
I don't really care about the booing. I just have
some of the riders seemed really put off by it.
Well, yeah, I imagine so. Thomas didn't, at least his comments outwardly didn't seem to be having a problem. He goes, I'd rather get booed than hit.
Yeah,
and then he got hit.
Yeah, so some fan hit him to check.
But you're right. It's nothing new. I mean, back in the 80s in the Tour of Italy, there was, throwing tacks on the road so the Bernardino couldn't win. They had a helicopter following one of the Italians that was trying to push him along. Eddie Merckx gets punched in the kidney and has to, in the yellow jersey on one of the climbs, has to pull out of the race. So, these things happen. So you're right. It's part of the sport. We need to continue it.
If we can't go to a sporting event and boo, What the heck? That is ridiculous, right? Like that's
No,
just
I don't
part
have
of
problems
sports.
with the booing.
Okay.
What about there's some classic pictures like Contador punching some guy like in a
Yeah, with the syringe.
yeah, punching him in the face. There's an Andy Hampton. He's winning on Alpe d'Huez, and this little kid comes up and he just decks him, pushes. And the comment afterwards was, he's like, he's young, he's got to learn some early.
Wow.
Harsh.
Yeah.
Harsh, but that kid
Probably learned.
I don't know if he
We
did
should
or
check
not.
back.
Okay, so stage 19 was good. It was kind of like the stage 19 of the Vuelta. I mean, of the Giro, where it was big action, lots going on. It was I really enjoyed that one of Roglic taking it to him.
Before 19, stage 17, did you feel the length or grid really did anything for the race?
The best part, and thanks for bringing it back to that. The best part about the length was that it was like I didn't have to waste my time watching a long mountain stage. It's just like, hey, here's 3 mountain passes. We're just going to put them all in 2 hours. Perfect. The grid was exceptionally cool because you got to see them stoically sitting on their bikes for a while. Although Roglic was clipped in early against the barriers. I don't know if that's a problem, but
did he get a good jump at the start then?
No one got a jump. I think it's a pretty good consensus that it was kind of a flop, the grid itself.
Yeah, I agree with
but I didn't have a problem with it necessarily. I don't know that you?
No, it was a stunt to just show the riders at the beginning. That's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Yeah,
it was a call up, and then let's stay in this position.
Right. It didn't change the race.
No.
Yeah.
Although they've said that they were trying to do this to not allow like Team Sky to get right to the front and to block everything. And so you saw about 30, 40 riders immediately go right past and in the break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it just starts things off. So maybe it did affect the race, but it didn't seem to make a big difference.
What about the short distance?
It didn't really seem like it had a major effect on how the guys raced it. It just seemed like they let the break go and they really just waited till the last climb to really have a real battle. I mean, it was cool that it shortened it up, and it probably made the riders happier to not have to do 100 kilometers of just soft pedaling to get to the mountains. So I think it's a good stage.
They went over 3 big climbs that day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the 3 climbs probably played as big an impact as any. Waiting till the last climb to kind of really go at it. But I think shorter stages in general have always been more exciting. There were some dynamics with GC this year that maybe didn't make that one quite as crazy as it could have been.
Right. I almost wonder if it was. Oh, go ahead.
No, Nibali wasn't there.
So that or Contador.
Well, yeah, Contador wasn't there. Although, is that the day he climbed the mountain?
I think it was stage. It was one of those days where I put. I think
Quintana victory.
Yeah, I think it was where he'd gone out there and done it, and the guy that we follow on Twitter with name can't be pronounced said that he was would have been top 20 on the day.
It was that day. So stage 17, Quintana won.
Yeah. So I wonder though if you've had some of these short days that aren't necessarily as brutal. Think back. I'm trying to remember. Was it 2016 in the Vuelta where Froome lost his lead? And that day had some climbing, but it was more twisty, hilly, really hilly with a kicker at the end. And it allowed them to be a little bit more aggressive from the start because you're not going to go off from the gun and actually put a threat into Team Sky. But you might if half your team gets dropped because, it's a twisty race. I mean, that's exactly what happened today. So maybe it's just circumstances.
Sure.
All right. Cool. Chris, any last dividing thoughts on your 2018 Tour de France and the time trial maybe?
Time trial was kind of wonky. The timing issues there at the end and Dumoulin not really knowing how he did. Roglic, I don't know if he just buried himself too deep the day before and just didn't have anything left for the TT, but it was kind of a bummer to see him lose his spot on the podium.
It was.
Yeah.
But it was in an odd way, it was encouraging because I thought this goes on and I'm reading into stuff, but I'm thinking, okay, if he had really refreshed himself overnight like a good vampire, he probably would be doing better. But it was indicative too of his third Grand Tour that he's done, and really laying it on the line and doing what we like. I mean, that's why I was most impressed with him because he kept trying.
Yeah,
and it's that Contador thing of, you've seen this movie star comes to the front at one day. I think it was in Kreuzwick, was up the road because we got to defend our 8th place or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm sick of that. Right. Yeah. Let's give Sky a chance to relax a little bit. And you drag them all the way through the valley. Thank you. Because you're worried about 6th, 8th place. And right. Roglic to me was like, okay, I would really like to be up this. I'm going to go for it. Screw 4th place.
And then in the TT, it was interesting to see Thomas have 20 seconds to the second checkpoint and then end up 3rd. So I'm guessing he was just full gas and had his almost crash in one of those tight right-hand bends and just throttled back. So you got to wonder if he had kept it up at full gas, if he'd be able to take the TT win.
I think the Team Sky got a message from Michelle, Froome's wife, saying have him slow down.
It's possible. I think what Chris said, I think he probably had that little bit of a scare in that corner there, or going into the corner, and probably said, what does it matter?
Right.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to
Nicholas Portal, their manager, is probably like, dude, we don't want to see you yard sale it here.
Right. You don't need that many stage wins.
Right. I'm trying. Which tour was that with Lance? He's chasing Ulrich, and it was a little wet, and Ulrich comes down to roundabout and slides out, and that was the race. And then I don't know, but that's the kind of thing that could ruin the race for you, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, short story.
What about the skin suit? There's this interesting skin suit issue.
Oh yeah, I guess somehow during the course of the tour, Sunweb lost Dumoulin's World Championship skin suit. So they didn't figure that out until that morning, and luckily they were able to get in contact with the manufacturer, and everybody was on holiday with the exception of one staff person. And they threw in together for him on the spot on that morning and drove it over to the TT just in the nick of time so he could actually do the TT in his World Championship attire.
I was listening to the cycling podcast, and they were talking about this, and they were very skeptical. They thought it was all a hoax.
Yeah.
And
kind of an odd thing to pick.
Right. And they're like, oh, got it there. 3 hours in time. There's all these pictures of them sewing it. And then they talked to, I don't know, Brian Holm or whoever the manager, and he's like, no. This is all legit. Because it happened to be right there where their facility is, just, magically, I don't know, or
seems
care.
Like a good advertisement for that company.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
And good
they
for
can
them.
turn kits around same day.
Good for them being creative with that. You know who, one thing, a sleeper, just, you guys may not have noticed this guy, but keep an eye out for Egan Bernal.
Who does he race for?
He's on Team Sky. You probably didn't notice him much, but I think that guy might be good.
How did he do in the TT? That's what I'll base it on.
He actually did. I think he was 16th or 17th.
I don't think so. He is a Colombian national time trial champion.
Well, he did do pretty well in the TT, didn't he?
He got 25th.
Okay, that's
2 minutes back.
Still pretty good.
From a coasting Geraint Thomas. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he's got some work to do there because we saw that. I mean, he put his Tour of California in jeopardy by getting smoked in that time trial.
Who beat him?
TJ Van Garderen. A few people beat him.
He'll be fine.
Well, I mean, if TJ's
I'll stand out on a limb and say I think he's going to be fine. You too.
What do you think? What's his next race? When will he get an opportunity to be team leader?
The Giro.
Well. Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen with this Sky thing next year? I mean, they're kind of rounding themselves into
yeah, I don't know. So Disney
Trident
bought Sky or Fox or something. So I don't know what the plans are for that team overall. It sounds like they've at least got another year, right?
Yeah.
You got guys under contract.
Right.
So
how long has Thomas been on Sky?
I don't know. He moved over from Barlow World, I want to say 2009.
And his contract's up this year, so he's in a good position
a team in 2009
to leverage a new contract.
Yeah, the word during the tour was Brailsford is like, oh yeah, he's staying. And then actually it was Lance Armstrong was saying that he was in contact with McQuaid, Pat McQuaid's son, who's his manager, and he's like, it's a verbal agreement, which means he's going to get paid.
I would hope so.
Yeah. I heard Wout Poels gets $1 million plus on that team. So that's part of your problem when you're able to pay guys, I mean, there's tour leaders probably for other teams that aren't making $1 million.
Right. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? What about any other winners and losers of the tour? Kurt, do you have any?
Chris, you got something down. Go ahead.
My winner is Tom Dumoulin. I think he had a great tour, and who knows? Give it a few years, and maybe he'll be the overall winner. We'll see.
All right, I would give it to Team Lotto NL Jumbo.
That's a good pick.
Yeah. I had fun watching them this year. I really enjoyed Kreiswick and Roglic doing something. And I thought, there was some, I know I'm extending this a little bit, but they came to the fore with Hessink on that final climb on, I think it was stage 19, and did a lot of work. And it looked from the outset that it could have been very much like Movie Star when they come and help. But the difference was Hessink, when he was done, he had spun off, I think, Kwiatkowski. Well, he definitely had spun off Castroviejo. So either way, he had done Sky was just as depleted as they would have been anyway, if not more, through the work he did. So I thought it was actually different tactics than Movie Star, and it worked out well. Anyway, it was fun. Groenewegen, those guys. So
yeah, they had a really great race.
You have any? Or just
no?
I'll
steal yours. I like that one, and in part because I remembered just thinking how I didn't really know much about that team, at least their future, when local stud Nielsen Paulus joined them. But after watching them this last year with Roglic having a few good results, like it seems like a really great place for him to be. So it's cool to see. That's
a really good point because last year there was the rumor that he being Nielsen was going to EF Education first, and then swapped over to NL Jumbo with Sepp. And yeah, it appears. I mean, I think we don't know just from the outset. Though outside, it looks pretty good.
It's going to be a strong team.
Any losers?
I would add another winner, and that would be Degenkolb, stage 9.
True.
He kind of was written off, I think, collectively by the cycling world. So it was good to see him get a stage win at the Tour on kind of that type of course. So it was cool to see that win.
Yeah, I agree. And actually one of the best, it's kind of an emotional little statement afterwards.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It wasn't rambling, and it was pretty to the point, and it was kind of touching. And some of these, you just want them to shut up.
Right.
Yeah. Any losers?
Johnny Moscon. What a head case. How many times does he get? He gets a second chance or third, fourth, fifth chance. I hope they get rid of that guy.
You know who probably sent him a bottle of champagne, though? Buhani. Oh. He's like, hey, thanks, buddy. I look like an angel.
I look a little more normal now, don't I?
Yeah.
I would say for losers, the entire sprinter corps. It was just disappointing to see them completely absent on stage 21. I don't know if that's due to the course or they just kind of let themselves not make time cuts. I don't know what it was, but ultimately it was a bummer to see stage 21 come down to kind of, not to say second tier sprinters, but not the elite of the elite. So That was a bummer.
Yeah, because going into this, I was pretty psyched about, you'd seen the sprinters all early season just firing. Everyone was winning, and to me, it was going to be exciting. And then, that. You want me to do a loser? I'm going to go Greipel for his comments about DeMar, which I wanted to be true, but it appears that it's not true. And it's a little. I hear the guys. It seems everyone's like, oh, he's such a nice guy. You never see him deviating the line. I mean, he just seems like a good guy. And then
why are you picking him?
He's a loser in this. He put online something that
it was emotional in the moment,
right? And he wasn't even in the race. That was the problem.
And he deleted it, so it doesn't count.
I think he apologized too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but I mean the damage has been done, and
okay, Tyler.
Like I said, I wanted it to be true, and it sucks.
You're mostly upset that it's not true, not that he said it.
Right.
I like that I think we sort of asked Chris to investigate, or at least we sure didn't investigate.
No.
We just waited for Chris to
waited
look
for
at the file.
Yeah, I waited for the retraction.
I don't think the file came out. I never saw it.
Okay.
And do you have any?
He said Moscon.
Yeah, I already gave mine. I stand by mine.
Talk about another. I stand by mine as well. All right, so that was the tour. I hope you enjoyed it. Just a few more weeks here. We have in about less than a month. We have the Vuelta.
Yeah, exciting.
I said the other morning, it was Monday, and I told my wife, I'm like, God, tour's over, and she's like, oh, thank God. Like, really?
You're out of the closet.
Hey, not really. All right. What about locally? We had the USA Crit Series. That was this last weekend in San Rafael, the Twilight Crit there. It's always a good venue. Streamed it online. We partook in watching that. It's pretty good.
Coverage is great.
Yeah, talk to us first about the streaming. I thought it was really good. The coverage itself.
Yeah, they had fixed cameras on every corner.
What could they do different?
We didn't have any crowd noise, so that was kind of weird. There was just the announcers, so you didn't quite feel like you were there in that regard. We talked about maybe a better finish line camera, but
yeah,
given everything that they're working with and how quickly they've improved that service over the last few years, I wouldn't say there's much else that I would change. I think they're making huge strides every time. Every time I go to watch it, it's a lot better.
Right, so. And like the actual quality of the stream was good, so that was very helpful.
Correct.
Yeah, it was very clear. It was really good.
It was a strong stream.
Yeah,
but also maybe they could improve the production a little bit. Like sometimes they would miss like the camera that the action was on, like a little bit. Maybe they could catch up on that.
Well, my whole thing was so they're showing it's a clockwise loop, and they're showing the turn 1 from the right side as you're looking to it, and they need it to be from the left because everything comes over on the other barrier. And if you'd show it from the other side, at least on the start finish, you would get, because half the time you're like, I'm bending my neck trying to look around the corner to see these guys all of a sudden appear from the barriers, for this finish. And if you're on the other side, you're going to see a full. Mm-hmm. And these are just things that they can look at and see. Boom. So, Chris, you want to give us an update of how the actual race went?
Yeah, it looked like it was really well attended, which was great to see. I think having the USA Crits component and the money they threw at the prizes was really helpful. I think both the men and women had $10,000 purses for each field, paying down.
Those were belts, not purses.
I'm sorry, paying down 25 people. So on the 35 plus front, I don't think I saw any of that live stream. Unfortunately, it looks like it came down to a field sprint. Mike's bikes went 1-2 with Sam Benedict taking the win, and
that was pretty good.
Oh, you're still talking about the belt? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Well, if you look at them, they're like those ones that you win for WWE or something, right?
I think that's the idea.
All right.
Yeah.
Imagine if they gave them purses.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Not at all.
Go on.
What else happened in those races? They had some fixie crits. That was kind of an interesting thing. I think it's the second year they've done that. Didn't see into the women's race, but did see the men's race. Shorter races, 25 minutes.
We saw the end of the women's race.
We did see some of the women's race. In fact, we streamed the whole thing.
No, the fixie crit.
Oh, no.
I didn't see any of that.
Sorry, I didn't.
No, it was a small
You're still talking
field.
about fixies?
Yeah. I want to talk about the fixie crit.
The fixie stuff was like the women's. I didn't see the start of it. I saw the end of it, and I think there was only like 5 girls left in the last 10 laps, and 2 of them were off the front. 3 were, I don't even know if there were 3 of them together. There weren't very many there. That was to me a little bit disappointing. I would have liked to have seen more people in the race. The men's race, not bad.
It was pretty good once they got separated out.
Yeah.
Were they pulling lap? Because we only saw, there was like 6 of them there when we saw it. And then, anyway, talk about it.
You just did. Well done.
Paulson ends up winning Justin Paulson wins.
Yeah, it looked like it got whittled down to ultimately a group of 4. It was Paulson, Scott Cohen from Davis, Evans from, is he on Illuminate or who is he with?
Yeah.
Oh, Rob Evans is with Illuminate, yeah.
And then there's another guy, I don't know who he is. I think he's predominantly a fixed gear racer, unfortunately. But yeah, young Paulson.
Was he the mustache guy?
Yeah.
His mustache was strong with him.
It was strong.
Very fixie
rider.
Looking.
Yes.
Yeah. Women race had, it looks like there was well over 50 people that took the start there. Kind of a big discrepancy between the pro racers, and it went all the way down to Cat 3. So it was women P1, 2, 3. So I think, given the nature of that course, it's not one where you can just kind of hide out for the duration and kind of stick a sprint. So I think we lost quite a bit of the field early on in that one.
Well, and the quality of the field, because you had decent teams there showing up. It wasn't just your local crit. And so, yeah, it's tougher for a 3 to hang on, I think.
Yeah, and I think we watched the full stream of this one over dinner and after dinner, and nothing really got away in that race. Maybe a couple bike lengths at best. But...
No, and then the team went 1, 2, 3.
Right. Yeah, and that was Sam Schneider, Carolyn Bauer, and Josie Talbot. What team are they with?
I don't know.
I don't remember the name. Was that the one from Southern California? That's the one I think where my teammate from college, Tiffany Pizzullo, was the manager. She was in the booth for a while. Huh?
Put the team in there. Cut this up. Put the team in there. Yeah, we should get their name.
All right, we'll do that.
Especially since they swept the podium.
Right, they swept the podium, but there's no results on USAC.
To be fair, we had just gotten the check, and we were trying to leave dinner. So it was a little hard to pay complete attention at the time.
Well, I saw the podium shot afterwards. Which, talk about the women or the men's then.
Are you going to edit that out?
Probably not.
Perfect.
So the men's race, we had mentioned that there were some sandbags after corner 2 earlier in the day, and I think we were saying like that looks a little bit dangerous. And in the men's P12 race, we finally saw the lights had gone down. It was dark. We finally saw someone hit a sandbag, and it was unfortunately it was the guy that was in second in the USA Crits point series, a 21-year-old rider. And I think he was able to get back in the race and everything's okay, but it looked like a pretty hard hit.
Yeah, it definitely looked like he went over the bars and didn't have a soft landing. So it looks like he avoided the sandbags on the landing, unfortunately.
And that's another point for their production crew that was streaming this event, is they did have a replay.
Yes.
Which
definitely.
we weren't sure. We hadn't seen a lot of replays. They were able to pull that back up and show it to us. So part of why we watch these races is, unfortunately, the crashes, and we were able to see that again. So that was kind of cool.
It was. Well,
it was cool for the coverage crew to be able to do that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Overall, the race, it was cool to see. Mike's Bikes always had, it seemed like they were putting guys in every move, moves to get up the road. Oak Valley Community Bank seemed like they had guys going in the moves with either Robert or Timmy.
Yeah. Mark Pro had, I think, 1 or 2 guys in the race, but they had a guy, Gavin Murray, who was just always on the front.
That's true.
I mean, he was either getting into moves, pulling moves back, or just driving the pace. It was cool to see him up there on the front of that field, because there was still a pretty strong amount of representation from Cliff Bar's elite team out there, and he definitely raced well to go up against those guys.
Yeah, Cliff Bar was impressive, and then even Justin Paulson, I think, was pretty active in the moves, even having done the fixie crit just before. So
yeah, I mean, this ultimately came down to field sprint, but I think for 20-25 minutes of the race, Mike's and Cliff Bar got in a little 2-man move and got up to like 25 seconds at one point, I think, on the field. And it was Vogel and I don't know if it was one of the Mullervy brothers or if it was Zach Allison himself. I
think it was one of the Mullervy brothers.
He was very active. The one that was one of the top points guys.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah, there's a point series for lead laps, as far as I understand.
Okay.
And so he was trying to steal those lead laps, and it seemed as though Dr. Vogel was in cahoots and said, he wasn't in the series for that, but was able to drive the break.
IS Corp Pro Cycling was the name of the women's team.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They had a good advertisement during the race.
They did, yeah. So what was interesting to me, and this may seem as a slight, is Cliff Bar, quite the dominant team out there. None of the guys I see racing locally. So it was like a split squad. It's a little interesting. Where was their local guys? Did they not?
I don't know.
Maybe they were in the field, just kind of hanging out.
They weren't registered that I saw. Okay. I didn't see any Thor hammers being thrown, or
maybe they have a group that's dedicated to the USA Crit Series or something.
Gotcha.
So this is our focal point for these guys. This other group covers these other races, but who was leading the charge to pull back Vogel and company? It looked like it was just kind of a collective effort.
Yeah.
From the field.
Yeah, it seemed like there was constantly someone trying to get across and coming up just short. The last guy I think that was able to do it was actually Justin Paulson.
Okay.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think he actually bridged the gap, but Timmy may have been active in some of those attempts. So anytime you have 1 or 2 guys going for it, then it seems like the whole group kind of collectively gets pulled along, and it kept getting shorter and shorter in terms of the gap.
So Timmy wrecked, I guess, with 2 to go. Was that I did not see that wreck. I know he put that on his Strava, but I didn't see that wreck in the last 2 laps.
I didn't see the wreck.
I mean, obviously it happened. Sucks when that happens, and then they maybe that was part of the problem, like not getting Josh up any further, because he ends up ninth on the day.
Yeah, that's a tough course. Things got to go kind of right for you coming on that back stretch into the last 2 corners, so that you can hit that 4th corner, 3rd or 4th or 5th, wherever, hopefully even higher maybe. There's not a lot of time from the 4th corner to the finish.
No, that's definitely a short sprint. It's good to see Vogel not only be in the break for as long as he was, but as the race was coming down in the final laps, just being up at the front, keeping the pace high, and trying to get his guys organized and into position. You see him doing a lot arm waving when he was on the front there.
Yeah. And then it was good to see Andrew really active and getting called out a bunch. So
yeah, apparently he's got a ear-to-ear grimace is what
he
I
does.
heard.
We've seen that. We have that picture of him from Cascade where it's more like the Joker.
They immediately picked up on his pain face,
right?
Which was a great pickup by the coverage crew because that is what he's known for. But also former teammate Robert Terra, in a lot of moves, really really aggressive. It's cool to see those guys racing at a USA Crits level race and really,
being active,
being a part of animating the whole race. So, but the finish, Zach Allison gets the win, but Justin Paulson. That sprint surprised me. Like I saw him in the fixed gear crit, and that was impressive. But dang, that's a second place for him in that field. That's pretty damn awesome.
That's really impressive. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where he came through. All I could notice was, I don't think he was third, because 1-2 was the Cliff Bar guys, and so they did it great. They came into that last corner, perfect position. They get 5 or 6, something like that, and pretty good finish there. Their own guy was kind of, I like that, who are the lead out guys posting up behind kind of thing, like, oh yeah.
So it may have been Mike's third.
Gosling
or Hankins.
Tyler Locke of Gutenberg or Gutenplan, gluten free. I think he was
he up there?
He was fourth.
Okay, nice.
Garrett Hankins at fifth, Johnny Mitchell, and then Connor Mullery seventh though.
So he must have been the final lead out guy for Allison.
I don't think so.
Oh.
Because I don't remember it would be in the blue jersey guy. And I'm looking at the results, and that doesn't have teams listed. So that's the bummer thing. Good job there, San Rafael. Do you want to talk about Nats real quick?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it, but
we'll give them an update. This is U.S. Elite Nats.
Well, no, I think that's one of the issues. Is this is like
Well, this was USA a bad weekend.
Elite Nationals, and it's like, well, there's little bits and pieces of coverage. Even USAC's Twitter page was down for a while. It's like I feel like it warrants legitimate coverage, but anyway,
it does, and it sucks for this crit because he had guys, Reichert's former champion last year, right? He's out going to Nats. So
and Justin Williams won the year before,
right?
And I don't think you had a repeat or a previous champion there until you went all the way back to like Riggs.
Yeah.
So was he in the race for sure?
Well, he was pre-registered. I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, Elite Nationals time trial. Corey Lockwood got the win with Sam Boardman from Mark Pro second, and then Chris Reichert from Mike's coming in third, and identical placings to how they did at Chico, and the times are really similar there as well. And Corey Lockwood had a little note on his Instagram page, said he almost missed his start, and he even got a late start because he had a DITU issue with his junction box. So good for him to take the win, even though he got a late start.
Yeah, SRAM, I guess, jumped on board and helped him out real quick right there.
SRAM helped him?
That's what he said. SRAM mutual support.
Helped him with his DI2.
Well, they're just good people.
Yeah. Gave him a whole new group set.
Right.
Put on some ETAP.
They did that for me at Cat's Hill. I had right before the P1, I had a kinked chain. The guy just like ripped it off, put a new one on.
Wow.
I'm like, sweet.
You should just go in there with your bike just beat up. Just like, I don't know what happened.
I did.
He does.
Shut up. All right, road race.
Justin Williams took the win. Local top finisher was Robert Skinner from Mike's, so he got 10th place. So, yeah, good to see Justin Williams get a win there.
And then the crit, totally different result.
Yeah, looks like Justin Williams won the crit as well. Sam Boardman, I think, came in third, and Robert Skinner got 11th. So some local guys doing well. No wins, unfortunately.
If you're not going to, if it's going to come down to a sprint finish and you have Justin Williams in there for the road race, I mean, he's going to double national champion now. So
yeah, I didn't see any clips from the end of the crit, but looking at a couple pictures, Williams had several bike lengths over the field. So he must just come out of the last corner and just exploded.
Yeah. I mean, what did he say at Chico when we talked to him?
Closed his eyes and
go. Closed his eyes and went through the corner. Something like that. So yeah, good job for him. And you had U23 here, the Avelo team.
Yeah, so Gage Hecht got the win there, but also Quentin Kirby from Mark Pro, he got second. He seems to be.
Don't you mean Marco Polo?
I do mean Marco Polo. Yeah,
it's a call out to Andreu, or we'll call him Angie.
So a lot of guys that did well at Nationals did really well at Chico. So it's good to see kind of that connection.
Yeah, maybe we'll post some of these interviews we've had since Nats, and we'll put them out as a hey, look back at these. And maybe not.
Remember that time you were at Chico?
Yeah, remember the time you were at Chico? try to capitalize on these guys' lives. Any winners and losers from NorCal scene, Nats? Either way.
So winners, Justin Poulsen, two races. Probably took home a decent purse. Good prize money and a belt. So good for him.
Yeah,
it's good to see he got prize money, purse, and a belt.
That belt was as big as he was. He's not a big kid.
No,
that belt was giant.
That's a good.
I want to see him wear that now with on the fixie.
He probably will.
He probably will. Yeah. Anyone for you, Chris?
I would say Mike's had a good day. They were the big local team representing at San Rafael, and even though they were kind of split between Nationals and San Rafael, they still were probably one of the more active teams, driving the break and then getting second and fifth in the finish is a good result for them.
Yep.
I'll pull out Cliff Bar on this one. Those guys are, Cliff Bar is right over there from the Bay, and they were very active. Obviously, prominent team in that series. I think they were leading it or so, and they come out and they take the win. They take a lot of time out of there, and it was good to see. Losers.
I'm going to go with not at their fault, but the Crit unfortunately suffered, I think, from the scheduling mashup with Nationals being on the same day. It would have been nice to have seen, a lot of those teams at their full strength. If Mark Pro had Boardman and Kirby, and if Mike's had Reichert and Roman and company, I think it would have made for a better race. And I don't know the solution to resolve that, because it sounds like a lot of the local schedules get hammered out early because they got to procure permits, and Nationals comes in a lot later. So you're just kind of hopeful that they don't line those up on the same day.
Right. You?
No, I'd have a tough time picking a loser from the streaming coverage.
Yeah, that's true. Or what about Nats? You didn't pay attention to that either. Maybe just the fact that they had to have that construction on the course, and then that
sandbag.
The sandbag. I mean, you can see that it's not really part of where they would be racing, but yeah, it was at one point, and it really sucked for that kid. I mean, that sandbag stopped him cold, and that bike went straight down and up. And it was he finished. I mean, he was cut up on the podium, but
he needed to. He's in the point series.
Yeah, good for him.
He had 15 laps that he took between his crash and his restart.
There was a delay.
It took him a while to get back out.
He was a smart kid on that one.
Yeah.
Played it like an expert veteran. All right, any things that make you go You have any of those from the world of cycling?
Looks like you have a couple things on this list.
We've talked about those. Maybe the gendarme taking down Chris Froome on the way down the hill.
Yeah, that was actually cool. That was cool that it was all caught on camera or video. Yeah, and there was good audio that came out.
Fuck you! He did it like he was doing it in a French accent too.
What about the grand, the prize money? I don't know if you saw EF.
Yeah.
The EF team was the last in the team
significantly
competition.
last,
and they took home $14,000 for 3 weeks worth of work. Yikes! And I think the grand total was $2 million something. I mean, there's just no money.
Right.
God, it's crazy to me for a 3-week, month-long television spectacle. You have $2 million and change for the teams.
Yeah, I think Sky, everything that they won, as well as all their riders did, I think they took home $750.
It just seems
really
nuts.
Wow.
That seems nuts to me.
Right.
But
especially when you look at those numbers, and I don't think they're different from the early 2000s.
Right.
And then, I mean, it's just, we've talked about the economics of cycling. It's just, you don't have the pull from the white riders because of this revenue stream. And then ASO, they're not sharing any of this revenue. So, and the riders, if they're going to quit, I think it was, and I know you have to go, but they've talked before. Lance was actually talking about it in the Giro. They didn't want to race when the last time he came back and was racing the Giro. There was dangerous into Milan. They didn't want to race, so he was tasked to go and tell we're not going to do this, So they go up there. The director gets on the phone with these 3 continental teams and says, "You guys don't start racing now. You're not ever coming back to this race." Those teams start racing. It's like they break the union, so to speak.
Right.
The game's on. So there's no leverage of these teams to be able to do this. And you don't get any pull of the 1-2% of the TV revenue would help, right? Something. So yeah. Get you.
It's sad.
All right. Last words. What, anything you're mad at, or did you have something that makes you go that's you?
That was never the idea.
Nothing really that makes me go It's just Kurt brought up a good point with the payment and the money associated with that. You think in this day and age that even like the worst placing team would be able to pull down something better than 15,000 when their one rider alone earned, I think, $200,000 in pledges to support a velodrome. That
right. Maybe you should have pledged to their team instead.
Yeah, no, that's all I got for things that make you go,
All right. Upcoming, we've got Patterson Pass, done again. That's the Elite District Road Race Championships. Sassoon, thanks for the phonetic spelling there. Winners, Vacaville. I don't know if they're even going to happen. Tour of Utah's coming up. They've been advertising on YouTube a bunch now lately.
Have they?
Yeah. Oh. So you've got 6 stages there. Some Park City again, Empire Pass, Snowbird. This should be good. Then we have the Colorado Classic. I was looking at that route. It looks a little two stages in Vail. They're doing the Vail Pass TT, then 2 in Denver. The last one's a little circuit through town. But women are doing it as well, so that's kind of cool. Vuelta, then U.S. Crit Series, Littleton Twilight Crit, Benchmark Twilight in West Philly, Gateway Cup in St. Louis, and the series finale, the Resurgence in Atlantic City.
Cool.
So I got a thing for things that make you go, So
I guess he doesn't have to go to his meeting.
I do. But
Okay,
this was.
I like it.
So
way to finally step up and be a good state employee.
So the Tour de France on social media, they had like this Tissot timing competition.
Yeah.
And for some reason, part of their footage that they were using to promote this was an NCNCA 35 plus race from like 2015. It's like, where did that come from?
Was it like Land Park or something?
Yeah, I think it was Land Park.
Yeah.
It was like,
but it was at least, I think, the P12 race.
no, it was not.
Oh, it was the Masters?
If the photographer
won some award for that.
Yeah,
that's not an award.
It was probably like a weird crop where the transparent. What the heck is the photo?
Just the overlay?
Yeah, is taken off.
Maybe, but yeah, it was odd to see that come across my one of my streams. It was like, wait, I know that course. Why
maybe he let it be like stock photo, and they didn't want to spend any money.
Yes,
that's bad.
It was pretty. Yeah, it was pretty good.
But it was good to see some local guys.
There you go.
In the Tour de France social media stream.
Last thing. So what do you watch the NBC feed? I watched the ad-free one with the Aussie guys. I thought it was much better.
I watched the Sagan special.
Right.
That's what I watched.
We like Sagan, but we didn't even talk much about him. He won the green jersey. Where do you get your news, cycling news from? What's kind of your source?
It depends.
Reddit?
No. So I usually go to like Steep Hill and just use that as kind of a conglomerate for all the different articles that
links
have been written up and data. So that's my go-to.
What about you, Curt?
I just come here.
You listen to this podcast.
This is how I learn anything. Yeah.
Okay, and you just wing it as you go. I'm always looking for good sources. So
Cycling Tips is always fun. I think they're a little less just reporting. They actually have some cool stories.
They have I go there for the good pictures. They have you go to the website and it's just big photo. Inner Ring is always a good one when he gets on a subject that's interesting. So, yeah. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Well, see you guys. Facebook, Between Two Wheels is episode 83. Check us out. Facebook.com, Between Two Wheels. Also our Twitter, is it B2W_podcast? I think that's what it is for Twitter and Instagram. That's right. Check us out. Share the feed if you would like. And as always, thanks for joining and enjoy some bike fun. Cool. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Thank you.
All right, bye.